I'm an RN. If you can't understand what I say, just let me know. I know my accent can be pretty bad sometimes. So, I guess I'm like teaching like CPR and first aid. So, did everybody get one of the little raffle ticket things? Okay, cool. And I think I got all the kids. So I have a little bitty activity like for the kids afterward where they can like, build their own little first aid kits. So I just thought, I don't know. Anyway, and this is Georgie. He's really old. I borrowed him from a friend. It was the best I could do. I didn't think anybody else would want to volunteer to have impressions. So, I know. So, like, when you come across an emergency, one of the first, things that you have to remember is always look around and make sure that, everything is safe. If, somebody's, still standing there with a knife, you probably don't want to go in and try to help the person. So, and then if there's other people around, make sure you designate somebody to go get more help and call emergency services should they be available. So with CPR, basically, they've kind of done away with the 2 breaths, especially with the coronavirus. It's shown that they don't, the oxygen that you get isn't really sufficient or worth the risk of, things that you can get. If they're bleeding in the mouth, you can get hepatitis, that kind of thing. So when you're doing it on an adult or a child, it's going to be 30 compressions, and it's supposed to be the 2 breaths. But basically, you just want to keep up your compressions at 100 a minute or 2. As she told me, like, if you can get that song in your head, Staying Alive, and just, keep doing it, that kind of helps. After, the 30 compressions, you want to stop, and try to feel for a pulse. You can check the neck, you can check behind the knee, and with kids especially, you can check the brachial, which is up here in their arm. And and then AEDs, if you can get one of those, that's good. They're pretty much walk you through it. You get the box, you open it, and it will tell you what to do from there. It's, place pads on chest. And it shows you, one here and one here. And then it says, resume compressions. It'll tell you everything. And then it'll say, it'll analyze the rhythm of the heart. And if it's something that can be shocked, then, it'll tell you, shock advised, clear patient. Just make sure you don't touch them. You can use an AED on a drowning victim too. The water is not, just make sure it's dry enough so the pads will stay. And so, does everybody know how to do like the compressions? I know there's a lot of people in here who are already certified or have been or in the medical field or whatever. So, basically, you're going to want to go, it's kind of hard because this is a kid, basically, but you're going to want to go, like, up right over the sternum, and in between, like, the nipple line is a good place to look if you can see that. And everybody's kind of different, but I do like this with the bottom of my wrist, and then just lean into it. You want to go at least 1.5 to 2 inches deep, and you're going to break some ribs. It's very rare when you do good CPR that you're not going to break somebody's ribs. Don't freak out, just keep doing it. You'd rather get them back than, worry about a broken rib. So, and then with, you just want to keep that up, at least until EMS gets there. If they're not there, you know, like if it's, you know, a situation where there's, you know, no medical help, you just, you know, it'll get to a point where it's either they come back or they don't. Because a lot of times when EMS gets there, they can put in IVs and give them, you know, drugs and stuff that will kind of jumpstart things a little bit more. And then the only other thing I can think with, like drowning, if they're drowning and you get them out of the water, if you try to turn their head to the side and try to, you know, drain as much of the water out as you can and check and, you know, make sure that, you know, there's nothing in their mouth. And then, does everybody know how to do like the Heimlich maneuver if somebody's choking? Okay. Now, basically, I'll show you the best I can. That is not what you do the Heimlich. It's
Kevin,
okay,
put your money back.
Okay. So, you'll have them up.
There's no pedophiles here.
Yeah, thank God.
Here, you want me to hold them up for you?
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so you're going to want to, you know, reach around them, and you're going to want to go right below, like the sternum, where it's kind of soft, where the stomach is starting. And you're going to want to put both your hands in and up. Just thrust in and up. But you always want to do it behind, and you want to kind of keep them laying back a little. That way, if they pass out, you can kind of just slide them down your leg to the floor. So, you know, of course, you'll start CPR and stuff if they need it. At that point, I've had to do it. It works.
I've done it twice in my life successfully.
Yeah,
Yep,
on this kid right here.
it works.
I hold the record at Livermore Falls since high school for longest shot projectile out of somebody's mouth.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
TMI.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about like CPR or?
I was just curious if you could brush on a pregnant woman where you don't do a donor first.
No.
So
No.
you would do just
Yeah.
patients for choking in.
Yeah.
I don't know if the requirements are still the same, but with a child you don't do a blind finger sweep, but adult you can if they're choking.
No, you don't. Don't stick your finger in their mouth.
It
Yeah.
used to be that way, but
Yeah, not anymore. You know, you can look, and I mean, if you can see something like right there, you know, and of course, it's like an infant. They don't have any teeth. They're not going to hurt you. But you don't want to take the risk
Right.
of shoving it further down in their throat. So, trying to think. With like, I'll go on to some other stuff. Bleeding is probably like a really big concern issue, especially if you're on like aspirin or Coumadin or anything like that. And a lot of people get freaked out with head wounds. Head wounds are going to bleed. I mean, it's going to look a lot worse than it really is. So, and that took me a little while to get used to, because I'm like, oh my God, there's like 4 pints coming out of this guy, and it's not, you know. But you want to put, you want to always put direct pressure over the area that's bleeding. Pressure is what's going to make it stop. If you have like, you know, something major, sometimes you're going to need a tourniquet. And I looked up some stuff about that. They have the Israeli bandages. It's kind of like a pressure bandage that you can put on, and it has basically, it's a non-adhering dressing that allows the removal without reopening the wound, and it has a pressure applicator, which is like a bar that aligns over the wound to help stop the bleeding. And then it has the closure bar to secure the bandage after it's wrapped and to apply additional pressure. Having one of those around is good. I have one. You can get them on Amazon. There's videos on YouTube you can watch on how to, apply them. I've never had to use one of those. And then, like I mentioned with tourniquets, they hurt, but you can't worry about, in an emergency situation, you need to worry about what you need to do at that moment to save the person. And some people think, like, you shouldn't keep them on for long periods, or you should loosen them up every now and then and let the blood come through, and you don't want to do any of that, because if you're loosening it, periodically, all you're doing is opening it, they're bleeding out, closing it back, open it, they're bleeding out more, eventually they're going to bleed out or go into shock. You can keep one on for up to 4 hours with minimal risk of, damage to a limb. If you want to put it on like 2 to 3 inches above the site that's bleeding, and you're going to need something wide and thick, like you'll see like MacGyver whip out a telephone cord. That's not going to work. A belt is typically going to work because it's going to give. And you can buy tourniquets, like I said, on Amazon too. But you want to make sure you get a good one, because you don't want to get one on there and then have the clasp break on a cheap one, or and you can also use like a scarf or a triangle bandage. Those are good to keep around because they're thick and strong, and you can, basically wind it with a stick and, secure it that way. But when you put it on, always try to go, like, never put it on a joint. Try to go, like, above the knee or, above the elbow. Like, if, the cut's here, you go ahead and try to put it on. Or, like, the bottom part of their leg is, you're going to want to go above the knee. In the case of like snake bites, don't ever put a tourniquet above or on because of a snake bite. All you're going to do is trap the venom in that spot. Those little snake bite pits craft can do damage. You don't want to, suck the venom out, all that. Once it goes in, it, spreads. So those are useless. But anyway, in a case of like where there is no emergency services, you may end up, getting into a point where you have to take the tourniquet off yourself. So what you want to do is, leave it on for the 4 hours. Give it a chance to, try to clot on its own. And then you're going to want to try to put pressure dressings really tight over the wound. And then you can loosen the tourniquet very lightly and see if the blood has stopped. If it stopped flowing, go a little more, but do it gradually. Don't ever just take the whole tourniquet off and be like, yay, because you don't want to, break open the clots again. And then keep it loose around the area, so just in case you have to, 30 minutes later it starts bleeding again, you've got it right there and ready to put back on should you need to. So does anybody have questions about those? No? it was pretty in depth, all the stuff that I read. So I'm trying to cover as much as I can without, like, reading a textbook. So then we'll come with like animal bites, scratches, bee stings. One thing that I don't like alcohol and I don't like peroxide because it kills healthy cells around the area. Flushing it out with water and washing it with soap and water usually is plenty enough to disinfect the area, because you're going to want the healthy cells around the site, to help the healing again. So I typically don't ever do that. You just want to wash it with, soap and water. You can see in the wound. Use some tweezers. You can, get that out and then just, bandage, accordingly. So let's see.
What kind of soap? What kind of soap?
Any kind. I don't the antibacterial really with the difference. I mean, I actually tried it myself. There's these things you can get that it dyes your hands, and then you can go and like wash your hands, and then you go over it with a UV light, and you can see all the places you missed, because it kind of like simulates the area, that would be on your hands. And I got the same result whether I used Dial antibacterial or the dollar store scented soap. I was still, basically the same. And using antibacterial soap all the time can lead to, just like taking antibiotics when you're not supposed to, it can lead to resistance, to organisms. So I actually try not to use antibacterial soap a whole lot, but I think that's, sometimes is a personal preference. And like we're all using a ton of hand sanitizer right now too. After the third application of hand sanitizer, wash your hands, because it's built up on your hands and it's not as effective anymore. So we try to do that. Then we have like, but now bee stings, and like allergic reactions. There's a lot of people that are allergic to bees. If you don't have the EpiPens around, give them Benadryl and have them chew it. If it's a pill, it'll get into their system a lot faster. And sometimes that will help minimize the severity of the reaction. Some people, just have to have EpiPen. So if you're allergic to bees, try to keep an EpiPen around, or, like my dad, when he passed away, he had an EpiPen. I kept it because, I never know, there might be somebody around me who's going to need it, in case of an emergency. So, but you want to make sure that if you get bit, if you have a bee sting, whatever, remove any tight clothing, take your rings off, your watch off, because you're going to have some swelling, and you don't want it to swell up so bad that, it's going to cut the blood flow off from your ring or whatever. So, and then you should try to get the stinger out, and you can do that, they make little, it's like almost little pointed metal things. It's hard to describe them without having one, but that will get the stinger out, or you can just kind of like take something that's kind of hard. Maybe if you have a break it down, it will pull the stinger You want to get the stinger out because that's what's pumping the venom in there. And like I said, Benadryl is always good. It's not going to hurt them, even if you don't know if they're allergic to them. You know, if you want to be cautious, give them Benadryl anyway. It's not going to hurt. And then you have burns. Burns can be kind of tricky. Don't put butter on them, anything that's oil based, because after you burn your skin, you have to think it's still cooking. And you know, what do you use to cook with? Oil, butter. You don't want to, you know, keep the cooking process going. So they have this stuff called water gel, burn gel, and it actually will stop, you know, that process and cool it, and it has lidocaine in it, and it will help with the pain too. I love that stuff, and they've actually expanded their line now where they have like big sheet dressings for like large burns. And that's good because you want, you know, if you have to dress the area, you want something cool and moist. You don't want it to stick, because they will stick. Like if you just take if you know, on a big area, you know, you want to use, like if you don't have those water gel sheets or whatever, get a wet sheet, or you know, just something moist to cover the area. Of course, you know, there's different degrees of burns, and you know, each one requires a different, you know, treatment. But the major thing with burns is, you know, people become dehydrated very quickly. That's the major risk. So that's why they end up, you know, with like half normal saline IVs, and you know, to help shift the fluid and the cells, but all that stuff's like really complicated, and I'd probably have to review it myself. So, and then, you know, chemical burns, you want to flush it with water. Just, you know, put it under running water, hold it there for 15 minutes, you know, and that's what's, you know, going to neutralize that. You can do the same thing with, you know, cooking burns, stuff like that, water. Just run it under cool water. Let's see. I think I covered most of everything I wanted to cover. I have a lot of stuff on snake bites, but that's because I'm from Louisiana and everything you see is poisonous. But yeah, I think that's pretty much, you know, the basics of stuff. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to add? Because I know some of y'all are medical and there might be something that I forgot.
Well, I always used aloe plants.
You
Just
can
slice
use
them right
aloe.
open and put them right on.
Yeah, you can use aloe. Aloe is very
Well,
good.
just the plant, you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's basically
Aloe is very good to use, and it's good for sunburns.
And then put a frozen wet washcloth over that.
The
Yep.
best thing is just to get the burning stopped, cool
Yep.
it any way you can without grease.
Yeah, you don't want to keep cooking it.
What about Silvadine? Silvadine?
Silvadine, silver is a natural antibiotic, antimicrobial. So when you have probably second degree burns or above, where you're going to have, you know, skin, you know, missing, that helps it heal. It's better than, it's the preferential treatment over like triple antibiotic and, you know, things like that. So yeah, Silvadine is also another one of those good things to have on hand, but it's prescription. So if you ever know anybody who has any Silvadine, just keep it.
Number one
You never
problem
know.
with burns is infection.
And they do have colloidal silver gel you can buy too. Health food stores, Amazon has it. And I do have a couple of jars of that around, you know, just in case I ever need to break into it. So
Is that everything else besides burns?
you can use it on cuts. You can colloidal silver. You can put on just about anything.
I actually make it.
There you go.
And honestly, basically what colloidal silver does is think of a bacterial infection. So if you have a bacterial infection in your system and you ingest colloidal silver at the proper amounts, what it does is it attacks the proteins in which that create that bacterial infection. So by using it in such matters as like wound care, what you can actually do is prevent the bacteria from ever actually stepping foot into that wound to create an infection altogether. Because it never gets the head start if the colloidal silver is still there. Like she was saying, it's been around from my research for over 5,000 years. It was first recorded in Egyptian medicine, still used today in today's medicine. A lot of your albuterol inhalers have actual colloidal silver in it. I have a buddy of mine who's a diabetic. He's been running into problems with big ulcers. Two things we did. My girlfriend makes this agent called Magic Salve. Works great. You can use it on pretty much just about anything except burns, because it is oil-based. But the patches that his doctor gave him to use to put over this wound actually had colloidal silver infused into the patch. So it's still being used to this day, and it works great. It saved my life twice. I've had 2 infections in my life that almost killed me. I went to the ER actually, and the physician that was looking at my problem had a scared look on her face. So just imagine how that made me feel. She had to go to her computer, do a Google research on exactly what it was. I went home, I drank this stuff for 3 days, it was gone. And when she described to me on what I had, I did some research on that. And it could have easily have killed me if I allowed it to prolong. But because of the factor that I'm knowledgeable in this stuff, it actually ended up saving my life. You can buy those kits just about anywhere online. You can get them on Amazon. There's a couple of companies out there that actually specialize in colloidal silver. Don't buy the stuff that's already pre-made. Buy the stuff that you make yourself. You don't know what you're getting in that pre-made stuff. They're going to say, you know, 0.6 parts per millionth. It's probably not. It could be higher, it could be lower. So just keep that in mind. It's real simple to make. You need a glass and some water, distilled water. That's it. Because the kit's going to come with literally everything else, and you need your phone charger. Yeah, if you run an Android phone, that's what they run off of, is a phone charger. So I'm a strong believer in it. It works miracles. My buddy actually just had a second ulcer that we discovered because we caught it so quick. His doctor wanted to see him in 2 weeks. It's completely healed up at this point.
Oh, good.
So I'm definitely a fond believer of it, and I would recommend anybody to get one of those types of kits.
Yeah. If they make it no spray, there's all kinds of stuff that colloidal silver comes in. But, you know, that's a whole thing with, you know, we could have a whole nother class on homeopathic medicine, which, you know, is definitely, you know, yeah, you know, I mean, I know a little bit about it, you know, some basics, but I'm by no means an expert on that because, you know, I work in the actual medical world and they don't like us to use homeopathic remedies. But another thing, too, he was saying bandages now. There are some that are actually impregnated with manuka honey. And that's actually like a natural antibacterial, too. I've put those on bed sores and stuff on patients. And so I have a jar of that around, too. That's just another one of those home remedy type things. But
I know I'll look just in the dump. It's using the. You use the honey on the milk. With my dogs, I follow a lot of
Another
homeopathic,
one of those remedies
natural
that was
things,
first
and all of
discovered in
this stuff
Egypt.
is stuff they
yep,
use
it's
in all the
been around for a very, very, very long time. Yep, and Yeah, well, there's a lot of natural stuff that we can do, you know, that we don't always, you know, we defer to stuff that makes the companies money over, you know, something that may be cheap and just as effective, you know. So, like working in the prison system, staff is everywhere. There's big white boils that you get, and you know, a lot of times they'll just, you know, start them on an antibiotic or whatever. We would get, we used to get gauze, put some iodine in it, slap some Epsom salt on there, and kind of like put like one of those clear dressings over it, like Tegaderm. Leave it on there for 24 hours. That thing's ready to cut open. It brings everything to the surface, and then it can be drained, and healing can begin. You know, but that's another one of those things that, you know, varies where you work, whether you can do experimental things or not. So.
But the COVID shot's just fine.
Yeah, COVID's fine. COVID shots are fine. But Epsom salt and iodine, don't even think about it.
Money's being made.
Yeah. Some people are allergic to iodine, so I kind of stay away from that too. I don't want a whole nother issue. It's like, well, your cut's disinfected, but now you're going into anaphylaxis. So.
Have you run into many allergies with Hivoclens?
No, I haven't actually.
That's really good stuff too.
Yeah, that's the stuff they make you bathe with before surgery.
Especially if you have MRSA.
Yeah. Yeah, it kills everything.
Well, I have ulcers on my feet chronically, and the Hivoclens is what really helps me avoid infections.
It gets all those.
I just use it on my feet, but I've been in the hospital several times with bad infections, and started using that, and I haven't had another.
Yeah.
So it's really good stuff.
It is. But it's one of those things you don't want to just routinely use repeatedly, because it can also create, you know, resistance. You know, the germs.
With silver, it will not build the resistance.
Huh.
Silver, the colloidal silver.
Yeah, silver won't.
Viruses, bacteria cannot build a resistance to it.
No, because it actually affects the structures of the cells. So.